It's been 2 years since the sovereign European debt crisis attracted attention in global financial circles. During the period, the crisis has grown into the biggest challenge the EU has faced since the adoption of the euro as its single currency 12 years ago. To curb the festering crisis, EU member states have made tremendous efforts in the past 2 years. Denmark, one of the Nordic countries in the EU, will take over the EU Presidency by January 1st, 2012, and its main object is to keep the EU fellowship together. Now let's have Danish economists' opinions on the EU debt crisis.
The EU debt crisis has been evolving since early 2010. To curb the festering crisis, EU member states have made tremendous efforts in the past 2 years. In December EU summit, Eurozone countries has formed a pact which includes possible sanctions if they do not live up to specific demands on their budgets. 9 countries outside the Eurozone, including Denmark, have still not signed up to the agreement. Eva Kjær Hansen, chairman of the European Committee in the Danish Parliament, says the country's position is in line with Denmark's interest.
Right now we are in a heavy political discussion on what would be in Denmark's interest, because there's the new agreement made by the political leaders of the EU member states last week, and we have actually quite different positions on what is now in the interest of Denmark. We have throughout a very long time followed the euro as the currency, and there are parties in the Danish parliament who say that now it's enough, we should stick to our sovereignty. And then, for instance, my party say that we should lean as much as possible to the new decisions taken and follow it as far as possible.
But Marlene, professor of University of Copenhagen, says Denmark has to convince the markets that Denmark is even better at managing its economy, although the country did not join.
The general view from most economists in Denmark is that Denmark will actually have to be even tougher on its own budgetary discipline if we do not join. Because then we'll have to convince the markets that, well, why did Denmark not join? Then you have to be even, better at managing your own economy. So joining may actually give us a little bit more room for investments and for kickstarting the economy than if we are completely outside. One thing that I find really, really interesting right now is whether the Eurozone will tell those countries who are considering joining that they have to take everything, or whether they can, be part of some of the policies in the new compact, because that will be very crucial for Denmark and Sweden.
Moreover, STEN BOCHIAN, chief economist of Danish DANSKE Bank, says the EU compact is not strong in dealing with the acute part of the current crisis.
You can say that the European compact, or the sort of new rules in Europe, might be able to prevent future crises, but it's not very strong in sort of dealing with the acute part of the current crisis. And that's what the markets are worried about. How do we solve the debt problems in Greece, in Italy, in Spain? Maybe we can prevent them from arising in the future, but they are here now, and there's still no clear answer to how to deal with that. And as long as that's not the case, then the markets will be worried, and that's what we have seen during the last days, where we have seen a sort of European answer, but not a full answer that sort of convinces the markets.
Denmark will take over the EU presidency by January 1st, 2012. And its main object will be to keep the EU fellowship together, building bridges between the member states within the Eurozone and those outside. Asked of whether there will be any solutions to the crisis under Danish presidency, BOCHIAN says it is difficult to come up with quick fixes to this problem.
I think it's difficult to sort of come up with quick fixes to this problem. This is a problem where we have a mix of economic sort of issues and political issues, and we've seen with the summits that have been held in Europe during the last couple of years that there are a lot of obstacles to reaching a sort of convincing solution, and my best guess is that this crisis will continue through the Danish presidency, and even throughout the next presidency also this crisis will drag on.
However, as Denmark is not the Eurozone member state, some say it will be very difficult for Denmark to have any real influence on solving the crisis. NICOLAI, WAMMEN, Danish Minister for European Affairs, disapproves the opinion.
Well, I believe that there is a strong confidence in the Danish presidency from all member states. And I will remind you that the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, when the Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt visited her, stated that she saw Denmark as a presidency that could be a bridge between the 17 Euro countries and the 10 outside of the Euro, because we have a strong economy, we have a strong commitment to Europe, we are seen as an honest broker, and that is the way we will deal with the presidency. We will try to bring all 27 together to find solutions to the problems and challenges we are facing. And I have only met a lot of support from our member states, and they will try to assist the Danish presidency in making the necessary decisions.
But asked of what the Danish Prime Minister can do to solve the crisis under the Danish presidency, Marlene Wend, professor of University of Copenhagen, says there is not much.
Not very much, because it's very much focused on the Eurozone and what's happening in the Eurozone right now with the treaty changes and so on. And I'm quite convinced it will be Van Rompuy, the head of the European Council, who will be managing most of it. But of course, it will take all the headlines and it will dominate the debate, and it will give very little room for the Danish Prime Minister to really get her own items on the agenda. But it could also mean that she would have to act as an honest broker between the countries who are outside the Eurozone and try to make ends meet, to make everybody feel that they are part of the process, and try to be a moderator and an honest broker in the whole discussion.
Within the Danish parliament, there's hope that Denmark will be able to play the part of being an honest broker between all the 27 member states. But there is also concern that Britain will be an obstacle by rejecting the solutions made by the members of the Eurozone.
I believe that if Europe shall be able to have influence worldwide and speak with one voice, it's important that we do not have too many member states with exceptions towards the common policy at EU level. And it's varying how UK acts in this situation, and what we are afraid of is that we will see other countries acting in the same way and thereby get a split at European level. So we have also, and that is my recommendation to the Danish government, to signal that this is not the way we want to go. We want to keep all the member states together, and that will be the task which we will have to take care of while we have the presidency.
Asked of whether the Nordic countries, including Denmark, can offer something to the rest of the Eurozone to help out, BOCHIAN, as Denmark, being a small country, has not got the scope to solve the European crisis.
Well, there's no doubt that the Nordics are among the strong countries in Europe, together with Germany, and thereby you could say that we are the good part of Europe to invest in. But of course, being small countries, we haven't got the scope to solve the European crisis by ourselves. And in addition to that, you should bear in mind that the northern part of Europe, or the Nordics, are not full members of the Eurozone, thus will not be the central part of the solution to this crisis. The central part has to come from the Eurozone itself, and that's not at least Norway, Sweden and Denmark.
Professor Wend also says Denmark has to keep a low profile during its presidency.
It's difficult to say how they are thinking about it, because, for instance, the Danish government is very, very low-key about this whole situation. They don't want to come up with any political statements. It's very difficult if you're going to be chairman of the EU, president of the EU for 6 months, that you run around and have opinions about all kinds of things. You have to keep a low profile, you have to listen, and you have to be constructive. So in that sense, Denmark is not very active in terms of announcing its own policies in relation to the crisis right now. Apart from saying that everybody should get, their economy in order, and we support very much this process. It's very important for Europe that the euro is saved.
As for other Nordic countries, Professor Wen says Sweden is completely silent. There is no response on what they want to do. He adds, like in Denmark, they need to get a mandate from Parliament before they can actually say anything.